Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank the committee for marking up this bill today. The Proven Forest Management Act extends an existing law that was passed with bipartisan support and signed as part of the WIN Act by President Obama in 2016. That law provided for a categorical exclusion from the National Environmental Policy Act for forest thinning projects up to 10,000 acres under certain conditions within the Tahoe Basin. Now, under NEPA, a simple forest thinning project requires an average of 4.5 years of environmental studies that produce reports often exceeding 800 pages. They cost millions of dollars to produce, often more than the value of the timber that we're removing. Federal timber auctions that once produced millions of dollars to the federal government now cost us money, so not a lot of it gets done. Federal timber harvests in the Sierra have declined 80% as a result. The Lake Tahoe categorical exclusion has now been in effect for 8 years. It's taken the review time for thinning projects from 4.5 years to less than 4 months. It's cut the reports from 800 pages to a few dozen. Under this authority, the Tahoe Basin Management Unit has increased the removal of excess timber from 1 million board feet a year to an average of 9 million board feet. Treated acreage in the Tahoe Basin has now tripled. The chairman mentioned the Caldor fire, and that is tragic and very instructive. The Caldor fire broke out last year. It affected a wide region that included both the city of South Lake Tahoe and the town of Grizzly Flats. Both of them are in El Dorado County. Both of them are just within a few dozen miles of each other. And both of them, to the ranking member's point, are affected by exactly the same climate. That fire hit a tract on the Pioneer Trail that had been treated under this new authority on its way to destroying the city of South Lake Tahoe. When it hit that tract, the fire lay down and firefighters were able to stop it. South Lake Tahoe was saved. The town of Grizzly Flats wasn't as fortunate. It sits right next door, just as I said, a few dozen miles from South Lake Tahoe. Same fire. For more than a decade, land managers were trying to thin the trestle project. Everyone knew that it was a clear threat to Grizzly Flats. It was held up by environmental laws and the endless litigation arising from them, and still had not been undertaken when that same Caldor fire incinerated the entire town. Apparently, the climate loved South Lake Tahoe, but didn't care much for Grizzly Flats. What a tragic and unnecessary destruction of an entire town. And I wish you could see it, Mr. Chairman. You ought to take a visit there sometime. It's heartbreaking. You get to the center of town, you can't tell you're in the center of town. You can't tell you're in a town at all. It was completely flattened. The general store gone, the post office gone, the entire downtown gone. People who'd lived there their whole lives told me that when they reached the town, they didn't know where they were because there were no reference points remaining for them. The destruction was that complete. This bill could have saved Grizzly Flats. It could save a lot of other towns that are going to be destroyed if we don't get serious about managing our forests. The city of South Lake Tahoe is alive today because of that bill, and we desperately need to extend its provisions throughout all of our federal lands. The amendment in the nature of a substitute makes a few technical changes based on feedback from the Forest Service to ensure that this bill is successful at delivering better forest health results across the nation. Specifically, it includes language to ensure that all of our national forests and public lands managed by BLM will benefit from the expedited active forest management provided by this legislation. In addition, this ANS addresses some concerns raised by the Forest Service to ensure that responsible forest management projects don't suffer delays due to ambiguities in interpretation. I'd urge my colleagues to support the ANS, the underlying bill, and I yield back.